Let's get on back to our previous interview then, where we were looking to interview the Statistician General there, Risenga Maluleke, that is, after, of course, the unemployment figures came out. 32.5%, an increase of 1.7 percentage points. SG, if you can hear me now, it certainly is a true story. Unfortunately, more South Africans unemployed, according to the data.
Certainly, we are seeing more people coming out of the third quarter, where we had 6.5 million people unemployed, and now we have seen an increase of the unemployed people going by 701,000 more to 7.2 million persons. So we have more people actively looking for employment that we have seen in the fourth quarter of 2020. And that represents the unemployment rate of 32.5%.
In terms of sectors then that have really suffered at the hands of this increase, then what are those?
The sectors that performed rather a lot backwards are finance and real estate, that went down by 123,000 jobs. So they lost 123,000 jobs. And indeed, mining, which lost 35,000 jobs. There are sectors that gained employment. Community and social services benefited about 170,000 jobs. And of course, construction, 86,000 jobs. But they were not enough to offset the increase in the number of those that are unemployed, because the number of the employed only increased by 333,000 people.
It's very difficult, I suppose, for you to really just comment on, whether this is good, bad, or otherwise for South Africa's economy. But one can say, though, dependent on the statistics of things like the NDP, this would definitely be a far cry from anywhere near those numbers.
Well, when we look at what the NDP said their target was, the target for unemployment for 2020 was 14%. And our unemployment rate by the last quarter of 2020 is sitting at 32.5%. And of course, we still have to come back with the average unemployment rate for the whole year. But generally, it's more than double what was targeted earlier on for the year 2020. The unemployment rate for the year 2030 was dictated to by the NDP that they would expect, or the country would expect to achieve, is 6%. And of course, we still have another 9 years to go, so we'll see what it will look like. But certainly, what was targeted for 2020 hasn't been achieved.
Yeah, and that will certainly be a story for the politicians and the policymakers to then look after indeed then. In terms of this data then, Mr. Maluleke, continued increases or worsening effects from the continued ability perhaps to now look for work. How does that number actually play out in this data? Are you seeing more people come out now to say they are able to look for work? And how much impact was COVID-19 or did COVID-19 have on the ability for people to actually go out and look for work?
The concept of labor market tells us that people are what we call your working age when they are 15 to 64 years. And the labor force participation rate means that you can either be employed or unemployed. So we are seeing more people coming out of what we call other not economically active, or from the economically not active category. But when we talk of the not economically active, we also include the discouraged work seeker. So we are seeing a lot more people coming out of that to be either employed or unemployed. And this is because as levels of lockdown are being eased off, people are now free to move around and look for employment.
That will certainly be helpful to the cause and hopefully does help South Africa's economy a little bit more. Mr. Risenga Maluleke, the Statistician General, then joining us to unpack that data from Statistician that came out a little bit earlier. The unemployment rate, 32.5%, an increase of 1.7 percentage points then with regards to the data. pointing to a dire situation. Thank you so much to the SG.